Good evening. I'd like to call this meeting to order of the regular city council meeting. May we have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Dennehy?
Here.
Councilmember Maloney?
Here.
Councilmember Schmischer?
Here.
Councilmember Stein?
Here.
Councilmember Tracy?
Here.
Councilmember Worthington?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Hamrick?
Here.
Mayor Troutman?
Here.
Thank you. And with that, we have an invocation this evening from Nelson Hoover. Would you rise with me?
Good evening. I have a specific prayer that I want to pray for you at the council meeting tonight. Throughout the history of America, it's been quoted many times that our strength is in our diversity. And my prayer is that this council would use the diversity here to bring that strength and not be polarizing. So would you bow your heads for a moment with me? Father, I thank you for this group of men and women that you have called for this time. I pray a protection over them. You've specifically equipped them to serve in this capacity. And this evening, as they look at the agenda items, that you would give them the wisdom and the diversity that you have placed here, that it would be a strength for the good of our community, that the enemy couldn't use it to polarize and to tear our community apart, but it would be a testimony of your grace. In Jesus, your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you for that. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And I do not see any citizens request to speak this evening. And so then we move on to council member announcements and board updates. And Councilmember Tracy.
Thanks, Mayor Pro Tem. The regular monthly meeting for the Superfund Site Community Advisory Group is tomorrow at 3 p.m. So Tuesday the 17th, we meet both in person and by Zoom. In person in a classroom at the PCC Fremont campus and by Zoom. If anyone has questions, feel free to contact me about that. Things are actually moving forward in regard to the Superfund site. It's very slow, but we have one approved, what they call a quality assurance project plan for risk assessment. So later this year, they'll start doing environmental sampling related to what is the potential risk to people in the community. We're still working on, and Cotter Corporation is still working on responding to community and regulatory feedback that they got on their plan for what's called OU2 and OU3, which is Lincoln Park and other defined and undefined areas out in the community. And then I wanted to mention real briefly, too, that I had a chance to sit in on a different subject, sit in on the meeting that the consultants on the swimming pool for the rec district had a stakeholders meeting last Friday, and it was a very good process. Consultants talking with a number of community people about priorities of what should be built into the community pool. It was not a discussion about operational costs and what might be on the ballot from the rec district in November. That'll come a little bit later in the process, but just to alert people that there will be some public meetings on this coming up, I think, in July and August, so stay tuned to that.
Thank you for that update. Councilmember Schmischer.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Hamrick. Just a quick update on the Red Canyon Trails Committee meeting. We met last Friday. Work is continuing on, mostly done with the main 3.5 mile loop. Work is continuing on the accessible loop, which is in the northern part of the park. We'll likely have a volunteer day coming up shortly that'll be publicized on Facebook. Highly encourage any council members that are interested in raking or otherwise helping to come on out. I'll also just want to flag the timeline on this has kind of been pushed back multiple times due to weather and other competing events and equipment issues, but we are anticipating that it'll be finished up later this summer. And huge shout out to our local history museum that's provided some great fodder for trail names that the committee is taking under advisement. So just huge thanks to Rex Brady and Steve Thomas, the trail builder out there, for the work that they're doing.
Thank you for that update. I do have one myself. On Wednesday, June 4th, I did attend the Black Hills discussion about wildfire safety and what the company was going to be implementing going forward, having learned lessons from some of the huge wildfires that we saw in California and elsewhere, even here in Colorado. And so that the Black Hills is in the process of rolling that program out and for potential implementation. We do have John Vigil here from the company. I don't know if you want to say a few words on that, John, or?
Sure, I'd be happy to. Thank you, Councilman Hamrick, for bringing that to the rest of the council's attention. We did hold a public session at the fire station just last week, I believe it was, and really the intent of this is to give the community a broader sense of what we're doing around wildfire prevention, including things like hardening our lines, vegetation management, and all of those different issues. But in addition to that, we're also sharing about the process that we've been going through to identify potential areas that could be impacted in the event of extreme weather conditions, things like wind speeds of a certain speed, humidity at a certain level, and in certain events it could necessitate the preemptive shutting off of power to prevent our system from being a source of ignition, similar to what you've seen in Hawaii, California, Texas, and even Colorado. And so we're just starting this process. This is the beginning. This is the first conversation of many, and we're just getting community feedback on how we respond if that's in fact the case. And so I would just like to say that this is a last line of defense. It's not something that we take lightly. We understand the impact that it can have on communities, and it is really a community response that's necessary in order to support communities if in fact they are impacted by a public safety power shutoff. And so I'd love to come back and have a broader conversation with you all if you're interested in hearing more from us, either here or in another public session if that's what you wish. So thank you for bringing that up.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Sure. Okay. Kathy.
Yes, John, it's good to see you.
Good to see you.
Anyway, question I have for you is, in the unlikely and last-ditch effort of having to do a proactive shutting down of electricity for customers, are you giving any consideration to those probably commercial customers who are on a demand rate, to where once the power comes back on, as far as giving them a grace period for not being able to turn on all of their power without the demand rate jumping up beyond what they normally have?
Councilman Worthington, that is an excellent question. I actually don't know that I've fielded that question to this point, so I don't have an answer for you, but I am
Okay.
happy to take that back.
I think that's something that should be considered, since it would not, the only act of God is the fact that you feel that the company feels that that's a necessary step, and it might not be too fair to those customers that are on a demand rate.
So I'll try and get an answer for you. Thank you
Thank
for the
you.
question.
And Councilmember Tracy?
Thanks. And not the same question, but kind of similar. I wonder, John, if you would say a little bit for the public's benefit about the program that Black Hills already has for people who perhaps rely on medical equipment that's powered by electricity, and what they can do in reaching out now, not in a time of emergency. If you want to say a little bit about that program.
Sure. Thank you for that, Councilwoman Tracy. We do have an opportunity for customers to proactively identify as being medically vulnerable or having medical equipment that's necessary for their quality of life. And in that instance, there is a form you can get on our page. Actually, if you just ask for the medical form, if you put it in the search engine, it'll come up pretty easily. They can have that signed by a doctor, and it can be sent in. So number one, it's flagged in our system. And then secondly, so that they may qualify for a medical rate as well.
Got it. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you for that.
Thank you, John.
We do have a meeting here, a vision committee meeting.
Actually, a vision meeting is canceled this month,
Canceled.
and we have an executive session in its place.
Thank you for that. And Councilmember Schmisher.
Thanks. I just have one more. I noticed that the most recent Fremont County graduate of the FBI National Academy is with us tonight, so just wanted to take a moment to recognize Commander Leonard for that huge accomplishment.
Thanks for that recognition. Okay. We now move to employee recognition, and our Human Resources Director, Butch Batchelder, if you'd like to tell us what you've got.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, council members, other distinguished participants of the dais, and the mayor remotely. Councilman Schmisher, thank you for that segue, because this is, I know, what goes without saying, this is your favorite meeting of the month, the second meeting, because that's where we have an opportunity to recognize our employees for reaching a milestone in their career with their employment with the city of Canyon City. This month, we're going to recognize Derek Holt. Derek is completing 10 years of employment with the city. Unfortunately, he couldn't be with us this evening, so has become our custom, we'll go ahead and recognize him. Derek was hired on June 24th, 2015 as a maintenance worker in the streets department. On January 2nd, 2016, Derek was promoted to equipment operator trainee. And then on July 4th, 2016, Derek was promoted to street crew leader. On October 19, 2020, Derek was selected to fill the position of stormwater field supervisor. On July 22nd, 2023, Derek applied to return to the crew leader streets position, and he has continued to hold that position since then. Thank you.
Thank you, and please convey our congratulations to that employee.
Yes, sir, I will.
Thank you. And with that, we move to the consent agenda. And Mr. City Administrator, would you like to review the agenda and consent agenda?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Hamrick and members of council. Item 8A is to approve the minutes for the regular city council meeting on June 2nd, the general government meeting on June 4th, and special meetings on May 27th, Art Committee, May 28th, the Water Committee, May 29th, which was an executive session, June 4th, which was the Clock Tower Open House, June 5th, the Royal Gorge Bridge Consultant, and June 6th, the Justice Center Open House. 8B authorizes the mayor to sign an exclusive easement agreement for electric and communications lines with Black Hills Energy. 8C awards bid 17-25 Justice Center 2A street project to Avalanche Excavating in an amount not to exceed $1,541,380.50. 8D awards bid 41-25 co-response software to Julata in an amount not to exceed $19,775. 8E awards bid 50-25 police department vehicles to Daniel Long Chevrolet in an amount not to exceed $103,965. 8F is to receive and file agreed upon procedures, the audit for 2A. 8G is to receive and file the monthly budget summary for April of 2025. 8H, receive and ratify cash disbursements. And 8I, to receive and file cash disbursements and P-card disbursements.
Thank you for that. Questions or comments on the agenda items? Any discussion? Then I'm sorry, I should look at my box here. Councilmember Schmisher.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Hamrick. I had a question on 8B and on 8C. Just wanted to confirm on 8B, you're not, I know that there's a lot of interest, obviously, in the Clark Station property and kind of the city's new stakeholder planning process around that. You don't envision that these easements would in any way hamper or hinder kind of the broad bird's eye view or master plan. I hesitated to say master plan because I know a much more detailed planning effort is about to is about to go underway. But what's been planned thus far would not be in any way hindered by those easements?
I don't think so. I think through that master planning process and even in the diagrams, which I'd sent to council earlier today, it shows the outlines of where those power lines are, and a lot of the planning efforts took that into account when they were doing it. The easements won't affect the city's ability to use the land underneath. So from a broad arching standpoint, I don't believe so. I think we can still accomplish what was originally set out in that initial document.
Great, thank you. It's really exciting that we're 10 days out, I think, from the new closing date. My other question was about 8C, which is awarding the bid for the Justice Center 2A street project. Could you talk a little bit about how folks will be able to safely cross the street during this 85 to 115 or so day project? I know I've heard, I think that 50 to 75 folks or so cross every day from Journey Home to Loaves and Fishes. So just want to make sure that we've taken that into account and have a safe way for them to cross.
Yeah, I've got Ted from our engineering department. Ted, do you want to come up a little bit and talk about some of those plans? I know we were talking about that at the open house. That was a topic that came up. There's also, a lot of people that will cross from the courts and the sheriff's office and DHS to go over to the shopping center for lunch. So we do see a lot of traffic going back and forth across Justice Center, and those are things that are being planned for in the construction process itself. You want to talk a little bit more about what that looks like?
We would, Justice Center, the plan is to try to do one side of the street, curb and gutter and sidewalk, and then obviously do the other side. Very similar to what we did on Main Street, other than we won't have that big elevation difference in the middle of Main Street, and we're not ripping all the asphalt out right away. So there'll be just some small temporary ramps to get people across the road. They could be even hard surface with cold patch or something to make them a little more easier for people to use. I think at the open house, the courts was mentioning that there's a lot of people that come up from Loaves and Fishes that, since there's not sidewalks now, that they use the street. So we're going to have to think a little harder on that. Probably get people on the other side of the street and then utilize the sidewalks as much as possible. That was kind of a surprise to me. I didn't realize that they were using the street. So.
Absolutely. I think the addition of the sidewalks on Justice Center is certainly going to make a big impact for the services that are provided out there. It sounds like then that it is a pretty substantially different plan than what we did on Main Street. I know folks had a really hard time crossing from one side of the street to the other during the Main Street construction. And this is a different plan in that we will actually have ramps and possibly do some paving to enable that.
Yeah, I think the biggest difference between Main Street and this project is that we're not going to be doing a lot of utility work underneath, so the pavement's not going to have to be removed. There's not going to be big trenches in the middle of the street. The process that the contractor is using for this is full depth reclamation. Is that correct?
That's
FDR?
correct.
So they'll be milling, later in the process. So, that asphalt, as Ted mentioned, will be there on site much longer than it would for a full reconstruction project like the one that we did on Main Street.
Okay. And when it is removed, there would be signs
would
about
be-
where specifically we'd like people to cross and kind of ensuring that there's a smoother way for them to cross?
Correct, yes.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. I really appreciate that.
Yep. Thank you.
Councilmember Tracy.
Well, thank you. My question goes back to item 8B, the acquisition by the city of the Black Hills property at the west end. Just to be maybe a little bit more specific, I know both Amy and I emailed questions earlier today about this. There is language on digital page 23 that specifically says, additionally, the easement areas described above shall not be used for camping or parking recreational vehicles. So I just want us to be sure that we verify in a public meeting that we don't anticipate that being a problem working around those easements for potential for RV campground or whatever. we
Yeah,
might do.
the campground was anticipated on the west side of the property. These easements are towards the middle and the east side of the property. So from a camping perspective, I don't foresee that being a huge issue. There may be a little bit of overlap that we may have to address from that original master plan, but looking at that diagram, it looked like most of the camping was further west than the easements themselves.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Schmisher.
Thank you. On that, I had thought I understood from your response to our questions that that only referred to easement 4. Given that I think it's easement 1 does run through that portion of the parcel where it appears from the diagrams that camping is anticipated. How would that be, how would we mitigate that?
Well, easement 1, there's those lines that come through crossing the river. The camping's actually further west of that. I think there were a couple areas where there was some pullouts, so those may be eliminated from that easement 1, but I think it was only one pullout.
Sorry, could you be a little bit more specific about what specifically is in our current plan that would be impacted by these easements?
The only thing would be, it's hard to not have the visual in front of everybody, but there's the road that goes back to the campground. Part of easement 1 goes over that road, and it looks like I don't know specifically what it's referred to in the master plan. But there's like some little donut loops that are part of that road. Whatever those pullouts are, it does look like easement 1 covers one of those. So it would just be an elimination of that one pullout area.
Like a pull-through site, maybe?
Yeah,
as
it could
opposed to
be.
back-end?
I don't know specifically in the plan what that was. The actual campsite sites, the RV sites, are further west than that.
Okay, and there are 3 other of those pullout areas that folks could, that could still be made use of.
Yep.
And as we go into further detailed planning, it could potentially be completely redone anyway. There's sufficient
Correct.
space
Yeah,
left.
knowing where the exact easements are moving into detailed planning, we can work around that.
Okay, and there's nothing herein that would prevent us from having roads or anything else that we need to go under those easements?
No.
Okay, thank you.
I do have a question on our financial reports on page 4 of 18 of the reports. Let's see, I don't know, I'm not sure what digital page, 99 of digital page 99 in the entire PDF. But in there, under computer resources for utilities, and I don't know whether this is an accounting question or an IT question, but essentially, it looks to me like utilities are pretty much an allocation amongst all the departments, but what this shows is that other departments have used about 20% of their budgetary allocation for utilities, but IT has used 53%, 54%. And so that's my question, do we have a data center going on here? What's going on?
We do have a lot of the servers and things here. I can look into that and get back to you after the meeting. Or
That's just a
tomorrow.
question, just a general interest question. Okay. With that, I'm open to a motion. Councilmember Tracy.
I move that we approve the agenda and consent agenda as presented.
Thank you for that.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Dennehy?
Aye.
Maloney?
Aye.
Schmisher?
Aye.
Stein?
Aye.
Tracy?
Aye.
Worthington?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Hamrick?
Aye. We now move to the administrator's report.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Hamrick. I think everything in the administrator's report, we covered some of that with the open houses last week. I think, the Clock Tower Plaza open house was well attended. We got a lot of great feedback there. We had folks that attended Justice Center were a lot of the employees of that in that area that provided some really good feedback on that. We had the the pool stakeholder group met on Friday. There was a really good turnout for that event. The consultants, BRS, they did a lot of exercises, around trying to narrow down the programming. It was pretty impressive. Both the group got it, about 30 people got broken up into 2 different groups. They went and did a card exercise game with the different programming and a budget. And both of them came in very close to budget based off of what the restraints that they were given from a budgetary standpoint and kind of the needs and desires of the community. So looking forward to continue to see that refined. And as Councilmember Tracy mentioned, there are several more public meetings regarding the pool coming up. And then I think the last thing is, we are working with a consultant on the RFP for the Royal Gorge Bridge. That contract expires at the end of October 2026, and we are hoping to have that RFP out hopefully next week.
Thank you for
Happy to
that.
take any questions.
Councilmember Schmischer.
Thank you. Could you give us an update on the Main Street reconstruction and what the anticipated timeline is? Thanks.
Yeah, we've got the traffic is flowing, so a lot of the traffic control has been removed. There is still work that needs to be completed over the next couple of weeks, putting the brick pavers back, paving or adding some of the additional concrete work behind the curb. That'll be taking place this week and next week. And then striping is supposed to be done the week of June 30th. So we're a couple weeks out for that, and there's a reason for that. Manufacturer's recommendation is to wait 2 weeks after asphalt has been laid because of all the oils and everything. So it will have a better application if, a couple weeks down the line. So things should be wrapping up that week of June 30th. Yes. And everything will continue to be open for the most part. The contractor may need to block off some parking spots here and there depending on the work that they're doing.
Thank you for that. Were all of the delays caused by acts beyond the contractor's control, or will there be delayed payments that the city receives from the contractor?
There are a lot of, the addition of the fire lines, added several weeks. There were some lead
Definitely
service
some
lines.
rain delays.
Lead service lines that were discovered, which caused additional work that needed to be done. So the contractor didn't do those replacements. There were other contractors that came in with those. So it's looking like, and Ted, you're going to have to correct me if I'm wrong, we're looking like no liquidated damages at this point, but it's pretty close. We still need them to make sure that they finish up before the end of the month.
Okay, so the new estimated time frame for timely completion is the end of June.
That is correct.
Thank you.
And I did have a question. I know that we hired a engineering intern in the middle of May, and my question is related to P-TECH and the high school. Is this intern out of the high school, or is this a different?
I believe the intern is a college intern.
College intern, so out of a college program.
And we
somewhere.
have used P-TECH for the engineering department previously.
Thank you. Thank you. And with that, we'll move on to the next agenda item here, which is introduction and adoption by title only of Resolution 3, Series 2025, entitled A Resolution of the City of Canyon City, Colorado Concerning Employee Handbook. And do we have a presentation on this?
We do not have a presentation, but this is the topic of a recent general government meeting. The changes that were requested, I don't know that we had many changes, mostly typographical changes, were incorporated, and staff would recommend passing Resolution 3 of Series 2025, approving the employee handbook. And we do have Human Resources Director Butchett Batchelder here if there are questions.
Councilmember Tracy.
I don't really have any questions. I think it reads well, and if I recall correctly, it's mostly driven by changes in law and things like that that require us to put changes into our employee handbook.
That is correct. There were a lot of changes, specifically in Colorado law, that we had to update from the last time that we did this.
Got it. Thanks.
If that's all the discussion we have, I am open to a motion. Yes.
Motion?
Please.
Mayor Pro Tem, I'd like to make a motion to approve on first reading Resolution Number 3, Series of 2025.
Second the motion.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on that? Councilmember Tracy?
I may not have heard correctly, but just to clarify, there's just one reading on a resolution. Right.
That is correct.
Thank you for that clarification. And with that, call the roll, please.
Councilmember Dennehy?
Aye.
Maloney?
Aye.
Schmisher?
Aye.
Stein?
Aye.
Tracy?
Aye.
Worthington?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Hamrick?
Aye. And now we have introduction and first reading by title only of Ordinance 7, Series of 2025, an ordinance of the City of Canyon City, Colorado, appropriating sums of money to defray expenses in excess of amounts budgeted for the City of Canyon City, Colorado, for the 2024 budget year. And we have a report on that.
We do. I see our Finance Director, Tammy Nordyke, is walking up. This ordinance is to address budget amendment for last year's budget. We had several insurance claims that hit our stop loss limits last year. So there were additional revenues that came in through the stop loss insurer, and this amendment is to address both the revenues that came in as well as the associated expenses that went along with it. Tammy, anything you'd like to add?
I have a question. It was noticed as a public hearing, but I did not put it on the agenda as a public hearing. Are we able to move forward with it? I apologize.
Is there a timing constraint on this?
They have not completed the audit yet, but we are anticipating having the audit completed before the end of July, so.
I mean, what I would do is open it for a public hearing. It was on the agenda. The public notice was provided for a public hearing, and just, it's a mistake in the agenda, but I think you can still have the public hearing.
Okay, because it was posted and it was in the newspaper and all that kind of stuff. We just didn't get it on here. I apologize.
Does that mean that we need to open this for?
Yes, sir.
Right, then with that, I will open the public hearing on the appropriating additional sums of money to defray expenses. And note that we have had a staff report on that. Are there any questions by council? Is any member of the public here care to speak on the subject in front of us? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing. Yes.
I was going to say, Tammy, is there anything that you want to add to the staff report?
No, I think we have it covered in the memo, and when we get to reading the ordinance, I'll cover it there.
We do have the staff report in front of us, and with that, I think I'm open for a motion. Councilmember Tracy.
I move for approval of ordinance number 7, series of 2025 on first reading.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion by council? Thank you. Would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Dennehy?
Aye.
Maloney?
Aye.
Schmisher?
Aye.
Stein?
Aye.
Tracy?
Aye.
Worthington?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Hamrick?
Aye. And with that, I believe that's the conclusion of the business we have in front of us, and the meeting is adjourned.